This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Few people begin their love affair with Taiwan at a historic event, yet that's exactly how Taipei Youth Program Association Managing Director Mike Brennand was first introduced to Taipei as a member of a marching band that played at the inauguration of the late President Lee Teng-hui. He shares that story and how his love for Taiwan encouraged him to become a foster parent in this week's edition of Taiwan Talk.
That was fun. It was a festival of bands. So they had marching bands from all over the world that came. We stayed up on Yangming Shan because they were too nervous about us staying in the Grand Hotel because of all the scooter and car accidents that were running into pedestrians back in the late 90s. So we marched around the Chiang Kai-shek Memorial, as it was called back then. It was super hot, super humid. We had high school students passing out because of the heat because we weren't used to it from Washington State. But it was quite fun. It was a much different style or vibe to the country back in the late 90s or the early 90s.
Okay, let's talk about that vibe. What did you find when you first got there, and what did you find when you first moved here as a resident?
Well, I mean, I had changed a lot as well. So when I first came to Taiwan in 1990, just for a few weeks, I was only 18, 17. The city was different. There was no MRT. There was lots of buses, lots of scooters. I know there's a lot of scooters now, but I think it was even crazier back then. A lot less development, no Taipei 101, no huge city landscape downtown. Yeah, it was a little bit more spread out, it seemed.
What would you say makes TYPA a special experience for the children who do get to go?
The staff is fantastic. Everybody at TYPA and Tiger Tots have the right vision in mind for the kids. They're all in it for the right reasons, which is to provide opportunities for kids to do everything. And what's really great about TYPA is we don't just cater to one kind of child. It's not just sports, and it's not just music. It's sports, it's music, it's dance, it's the arts, it's arts and crafts, it's martial arts. We try to have something for everyone, because, TYPA's charter, when it was first started in the late 70s, was to provide these kinds of activities, a robust and various amounts of activities for the international community. And so, we've tried to lean into that as much as possible. And anytime we have an idea that we want to try something new or try a new activity, or we think, there might be something that kids might be interested in that we don't offer, we go for it. And we just, it's part of our charter to try a little bit of everything.
Okay, what is the most off-the-wall thing you can think of that you've done at TYPA got there?
Well, before I got here, they had a School of Rock. So I think when the School of Rock came out, that movie, I've heard stories, they brought in dance and singing professionals from America, and we had a whole School of Rock camp one summer where kids put on like a rock concert. They learned instruments, put on a rock concert just like in the movie. That was pretty off the wall, but I think it was quite fun. It's one of those things where you get an idea and you think this will be really hard to pull off and really hard to do. But the spirit of TYPA is like, but it will be fun and the kids will enjoy it. So let's go for it and let's do it. So that's probably one of the more outside the box sort of ideas that I've heard about having taken place here at TYPA.
Have you thought of anything out of the box that you'd like to do for the time that you're there?
I have a few ideas. Right now we're really focusing on trying to expand some of our sports programs. Our sports programs are really good. They introduce the skills to young children, especially in the lower school ages, and they're super non-competitive at that age. But we also recognize that there's lots of kids that want to compete a little bit more, and we're going to try to offer some multi-season sports programs so that the kids have another option than just the local leagues and things. Because sometimes, getting into the local basketball leagues, the local soccer leagues, can be a bit intimidating for international community members and for expats. So to be able to offer those kinds of programs here at TYPA is something we're working towards, because then we can kind of control the competitive aspect. Competitiveness can really kill the spirit that some kids have towards sports. And so we want to teach healthy competition in a slightly more competitive atmosphere than what we have now, but in a super positive way that they're used to here at TYPA. So that's sort of what we're trying to work towards this year in my first year at TYPA. And we're just in the early planning stages of that at the moment.
Okay. When we chatted, you talked about your family and how you have 4 children. Can you tell us a little bit more about the outside interest that led you to foster
Yeah. So we have three children that my wife gave birth to, and they were all born here in Taiwan. And as soon as, I'd said I was going to come for 1 year, but as soon as my wife and I started having children, my wife's from England and she works here at the American school now. But when we first started having children, we realized that this is going to be the place that we're going to probably spend the rest of our lives, at least while the kids are still of school age, because it's such a great place to raise kids, and everyone had always been so nice to us, and the community's always been really welcoming. And so my wife and I were looking for ways to try to give back to the community and try to help the community. And so she was introduced by a friend of hers to an organization called the Garden of Mercy Foundation, which kind of rescues at-risk infants. I think I might have the details a little bit wrong, but from what I understand, they take infants from 0 to 18 months that are either have born addicted to drugs, or they're born, some might be born with HIV, or they just have bad circumstances that they need to be rescued from. And so what they do is they care for these infants in a small clinic. And they have these great nurses that work with them all throughout the day, every day of the week. And then as the kids get a few months old, what they really want them to do is expose them to a family life. And so our kids were really open to it. It's not easy for families because you foster the kids on the weekend. So you go on a Friday, you pick up the babies you pick up a baby, and you keep the same baby for several months. And you pick up the baby from the clinic, take them home, take them out to the park, do some stuff, try to give them sort of a feel of family life. And then you take them back either Sunday night or Monday morning, and they're back in the clinic for the week. And as we did that, our children started to go down and volunteer at the clinic where they could play with the babies and help, change diapers and things like that. But then, when the child turns 18 months, or if someone in the family comes forward and can take custody, then the baby goes away either to a family member that has claimed custody, or they go into the system and they end up in an orphanage, and then you never hear from them again. So that happened to us with about three children, and it was quite difficult on my wife, obviously, and myself and the kids. But we recognize the importance of the work, and it was really great to see the infants outside of the clinic being able to kind of experience a real family life. And so with the latest boy that we did, when he turned 18 months, his grandmother came forward, and she said that she could take care of him, but she's a single grandma and she has a job. And so we asked if she still wanted us to help her on the weekends. And she said, yeah, that would be great. So we've had him from about 4 months, until 18 months when grandma took him. We were still on the weekends. And then soon, it became it's a lot of work to take care of a toddler, especially as you get up in the years. And so grandma asked if we could take a bigger role in helping raise the young boy. And so we've done that. Both of his parents are incarcerated, but we've got a good relationship with them. We've got guardianship on his the household registration. So we can't adopt him, and we can't, be the sole custodial parents, but we do have some guardianship, and he's been with us now ever since he's been 4 months old, and he's 5 now, and he is quite a fun child to be around. And the kids love him. Our other kids just think he's great, and they help out a lot with him. And it's been really good for them to kind of see that the other side of Taiwan, because you can kind of get into the international bubble in Taiwan and think that there's no problems in Taiwan, but there's lots of social issues, lots of social problems here in Taiwan. And it's great that our kids have had the opportunity to see that side of Taiwan, and that there's lots of people working really hard to help those in those kinds of situations.
Can you share one story that you think defined your experience and kind of made you realize that this is something you really wanted to do? Because taking care of a child, as parents around the world know, is quite a responsibility, and to take on one that comes from a troubled background is a big deal, right?
Yeah. I think it was early on, as the first little girl that we brought home. We weren't sure how it was going to go, and how you would react to, because I always say that I've worked with children my whole life in teaching and running Camp Taiwan and now at TYPA, and I've always said I'm very good with other people's children and not very good with my own children. Like, I'm obviously less patient with my own children as opposed to professionally, but you always wonder, if you foster a child or if you adopt a child, when you bring them in, like what's when things get difficult, when they make mistakes or misbehave or cry nonstop, how will that make you feel? Will you react the same as as you did when you were a younger parent? And when we found out that we did, like, there was no difference. They're babies, and babies are all the same. And most people, I think, when you bring a baby into the home and they're having a problem or whatever, you just help, and you get rewarded, and you get to see them smile, and you get to see them take their first steps. We saw Zillion's very first steps, our little boy, and it's exciting, and it's just like any other child that you've raised.
You were listening to TYPA Managing Director Mike Brennand. And that does it for this edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm Hope Go. You can catch this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts. Thank you for tuning in.